Welcome, everybody, to a brand new spoiler review episode for Agatha All Along here on the Geek Bites, brought to you by the Geek
Buddies!
Boom. Bang, bang, bang. Episode 4 is out now on Disney Plus for you all to watch. Hopefully you've watched it if you're watching this spoiler review with us. This is a spoiler review, which means we're going to reveal stuff that happens in the show. And this one is called If I Can't Reach You, Let My Song Teach You. This one directed again by Rachel Goldberg and written by, Giovanni Sarkis, Jock Schaefer, Jay Servatsky. Is that everybody? I think that's everybody. Laura Monti, everybody. Stan Lee's involved in this one, and Jack Kirby. Just kidding. The characters are based on them. But we got so much to get into in this particular episode. We go to another trial here. This one is Alice Wu's trial, a trial by fire. We got demons. We got rock and roll music. We got a lot of stuff going on here, and a big reveal at the end here between these two ladies, Rio and Agatha, and the past, and Rio revealing an even bigger, how can I say this? A bigger reveal to her face for a reaction from Agatha. So we end on a bit of a cliffhanger at the end of this episode, but a lot to get into here. I am the Outlaw John Rocha. You are?
I'm Michael Vogel. I'm a writer and producer of animated TV shows and movies, and I'm also curious as to why you put rock and roll in quotes.
Well, we'll find out, I imagine. Who are you, gentlemen below us?
Are you a good witch or a bad witch?
You sound like Perd Hapley from Parks and Recreation right now, Johnny. The word from Perd is, who are you? This is Shannon McClung. I'm an animation writer and a television actor. And I think I know why John put rock and roll in quotes, but we'll see.
Is it a pony or is it a horse? Little Sebastian here on the Perd. All right, anyway, we're going to get into everything that happened in this episode here, but let's get our overall thoughts first. Michael, your thoughts on this one, as I mentioned, the trial by fire here with Alice Wu, a little bit more of the team. We get Rio Vidal back now to replace Sharon, and of course, we have that interaction at the end of the episode, which is a bit of a huge reveal here. Your thoughts on this particular episode, brother?
Look, they can hook this show up to an IV and put it directly into my veins for the next several weeks, and I am good to go. I am in. I am loving it. I actually, again, I'll continue. I find it fascinating, and I say this every week, that this is happening the same time as the Penguin. But like this week particularly, what I really was struck by as there's certain types of shows that really try and do a specific thing. So like with the Penguin, they're really going for, we're doing a mafia movie. We're doing The Godfather. We're doing The Sopranos in Gotham City. And so there's certain things that you're like, oh, did they do it or did they not? Like, did they make it feel like this thing that they're going for? I think what's so fun about Agatha is it doesn't feel like anything. Like this show is so off the rails in all the right ways. Like, it's a 70s thing. There's singing, there's demons, there's magical spells. They're like, it's so wild and just so out there that like you never quite know what to expect. And it kind of is just doing its own thing. And for Marvel, which a lot of times in the past has been critiqued of, oh, everything kind of falls into that Marvel style or everything falls into that Marvel formula by the end. Like this just really feels so fresh and so different and just so fun that I'm having an absolute blast.
Okay. Shannon, your thoughts on this episode 4 and where we went to in this episode and the coven of witches. So we got involved in here.
I mean, the format that they've kind of set up with the Witches Road is that each trial is going to lead to a costume change. It's a lot of fun. Again, this is just a great. This is a great Halloween show that not only are you dealing with witches, but you're also dealing with the fact that they get to change costumes every week. As I was watching this week, I started thinking, because in the end credit sequence, they do have flashes from other things, and one of the things that they have is Wizard of Oz. And I started thinking, like, is Agatha Dorothy? Is the teen Toto? Is Rio the Wicked Witch? Because they talk about her being the Green Witch. Are the other three the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion? I'm like, what do they need to get back? Heart, brains, courage? I don't know. I don't know if that means anything, but that was something that just kind of kept me up. But I thought the episode was a lot of fun. And again, the dynamic that Kathryn Hahn has with Joe Locke, as well as with Aubrey Plaza, very, very interesting, very fun to watch.
Yeah, I don't think I'm as positive as you guys on this episode. I felt it fell a little flat for me, and at times it felt a little rote. And I caught myself especially in the house. I felt like, okay, this is pretty simple stuff. And I think this is where the time of the episode becomes an issue. I would have liked to dive in more into the demon, into the curse, into the generational curse. Like, I would have loved more information on that, seen how it went through the ages, maybe even a flashback a la Lord of the Rings, where we see the montage of how this curse affected generations of Alice Wu's family and how her mom, with shots of her mom performing this in like Lisbon or Paris or Vegas, maybe even at the Sphere, just to have some fun. Like, it would have been cool to see stuff like that. So we have more of a fleshed out story with Alice Wu.
I'm getting a call from your line producer. Your line producer says we don't have the budget.
Yeah, exactly.
To go to all those locations. So we're going to have to pull back on that. What you put in the script, we're going to have to make some cuts, John, to the script. I hope that's okay.
All right, but don't tell me to not think it fell flat. No, that's fine. That's fine. So, but there was a lot to like about the episode. I think what you guys nail on here is the chemistry between the actors. That is the saving grace of this entire series, I think. Even if the story gets a bit simple at times or doesn't have as much heft or weight to it at times, I still enjoy the characters and the interactions in the back and forth. And certainly bringing Aubrey Plaza back, you see the difference. Look, Deborah Jo is great. She's fun. She's playful. But Aubrey brings that dangerous energy. And clearly, throughout this episode, she makes it very clear she's hunting for bodies. She's got separate plans here. And she's got this on again, off again, if we're not fighting, we're having sex type relationship with Agatha. Yeah, well, yes, fair point. But some of us have had those relationships, and we know how dangerous those relationships can be, depending on the situations and who's involved in it. But so it's that kind of thing, that energy that was nice to bring back into this particular episode. All right, so we're going to break it down into three sections here. I will rip through some stuff that happened, and then we'll get the input of these two wonderful gentlemen here. Let's start it off. Episode 4 opens with everyone except Agatha mourning Sharon's death, which upsets the other witches. Agatha makes it clear that only one witch left with her last time. So I don't know if that's a reference to what happened with her and Wanda in the comics on the Witches Road or something else, or if she's lying, because the three of us have been questioning whether she actually went on the Witches Road. Then we go into some Into the Woods blame game about whose fault it is that Sharon died. You know what I'm talking about. For those of you who don't know, Teen says they're all at fault for not looking out for each other, and he wants to go home, which concerns Agatha. And to me, that's the biggest hint that something is coming for the teen. Whenever anyone in a film or TV show says, I just want to go home, they're usually going to die. Then the Green Witch, they need a Green Witch with Sharon dead. So they use the teens spell book to summon one. Lilia hopes the new witch will be strong, wise, and good at her craft. Agatha hopes she's smart, not annoying, and not super political. And Jen wants her to be hot, and Alice is just hoping for some Advil. And who do they summon? Bang! Rio is back here, Aubrey Plaza. Agatha immediately lunges at her while the rest of the coven vacillates between being attracted to and terrified of her after she pulls a Wizard of Oz move walking down the path there. Tina asks Agatha if they're in more trouble now that Rio is here. Lilia reminds Alice that her mom could still be on the road somewhere, but Alice reveals that her mother died in a hotel fire while on tour, but always told Alice that the road would save her. So let's stop there. Gentlemen, Michael, your thoughts on this initial intro here, the back and forth with Agatha not really caring that much that Sharon is dead, the other witches being upset about this, and then Rio showing up and really throwing some gasoline onto the fire here, and then the teen asking questions of Agatha, wondering what the situation is with Rio. Your thoughts on this opening?
Really, the opening. Sorry, I just had a complete brain breakdown there. I don't even really know. I just it didn't. There's so many thoughts that tried to get out at once, and none of them could do it. The opening shot, really, I went back and watched it 3 or 4 different times, and I'm still not quite sure. Like Agatha looking at Sharon's body, looking down at Sharon's body, saying, "I didn't think you had it in you," and then the teen asking who had what in them, and her just winking at him. Yeah. And I'm like, what did she mean? Did she mean that Sharon really did have the makings of a witch in there? Like, what? That whole moment there, I went back and looked at it several different times because I was like, oh, we're going to talk about this. I should have an opinion. And I still don't have an opinion on it. So that's sort of open territory for what that means. I do think they very specifically are showing Agatha's callousness to Sharon's death to contrast with the end of the episode and how upset she is about the teen's death. I mean, they've really gone out of their way to go, Agatha cares about nobody except she sure cares about this kid. Like that is so specific and prevalent. And you know, I loved seeing them sort of like the coven is Agatha is obviously the biggest impediment to the coven coming together, but you see how they fall into bickering. I mean, okay, well, Alice, you're the protection witch. Where were you to protect Sharon? Well, you're the potions witch. And then Lily is like, she drank 2 glasses of wine. You should have given her 2 antidotes, bitch. Like just the fighting of all of it and the teen sort of being the heart in the middle of this, I thought was really, really interesting. I think Shannon is dead on with his Wizard of Oz feels. I mean, they've you know, I mean, the opening credits of the first episode have a yellow police tape going down a path, which is clearly a Yellow Brick Road reference. Herb says at the very first episode about Wanda, she really is most sincerely dead, which is obviously a Wizard of Oz reference. Yeah. And yes, skipping down the road. And I think the big thing here, I don't know that it's as specific as one of them has no brain, one of them has no heart, one of them has no courage, but Wizard of Oz is about a journey down the road. And when you get to the end of the road, you realize that the power that you craved, the thing that you wanted most of all, you sort of already had all along. And so as we watch these witches, particularly Jen, I mean, doing the potion last episode and then like literally healing teen later on with just moonlight and water, you see these are really powerful women. And even Alice in this episode, what she does to sort of break the curse. It's like, it's almost like the Witch's Road is giving you the forcing you to deal with your trauma on your own, if you wanted to put it that way. So Rio, she's death, right? I mean, we're just like, Rio's death.
Probably, yeah.
Rio's death.
She wants her body. Yeah.
Like, she comes out of Mrs. Hart's grave.
Right.
Full zombie Evil Dead moment, like, you know, crawling out of that thing in the most, like, horrific way possible. Says she was in the neighborhood because Mrs. Hart just died. I mean, everything she says here just really leans toward, and throughout the episode, really leans towards, okay, Agatha and Death had a relationship and some shit went down around Nick. I mean, that's really what seems to be the case here. Aubrey Plaza is having the absolute fucking time of her life, and it shows. And it's really fun watching her skip down the Witch's Road and literally be like, oh, that looks cool. Hey, that's neat. Love that. And just seeing how nonchalant she is because none of this matters to her. She's Death. And even when she says to the witches, she's not a green witch, she is the Green Witch. Right. You know, in like Celtic mythology, what was the Green Knight? In the Green Knight, the movie The Green Knight, he goes and he finds the Green Man at the end, and the Green Man represents the cycle of life. So green being birth and growth, but the opposite end of that is death. So her being the Green Witch also sort of leans to that. But just like watching them all kind of go along, it's just fun. I mean, as we've said every week, and as John said, even though I like this episode better than he did, watching these women and the team sort of bounce off of each other is the best part of this show. I mean, just the back and forth with these characters, the dynamics between them, and then throwing Rio into the mix just adds a whole fresh level. And it's just like she just infused even more energy. As funny as Mrs. Hart was, like losing her, you were like, Mrs. Hart was a blast. But Rio coming in really fills that gap in a completely different way and is, to me, super, super satisfying.
Yeah, Shannon, the Green Witch, is here to show us what's up and get involved in this coven. And, you know, she's the one that attacked Agatha a couple episodes ago, also said, okay, I'll leave you alone until you're full strength. But now she's been called up, and she says later on, I don't get to decide whether I go up or down. I just get called and I'm next up and I go. So she happens to have been, in line to get into this position. So what are your thoughts on this opening here? Michael's questions about the opening between her and the Agatha and the teen, and then how these witches get along with each other or don't get along with each other as they deal with all the things that are happening with Sharon and then Rio showing up.
I mean, again, the strongest part of the series is the chemistry between the cast. And I think, and I don't fully agree with you that it fell flat, but I do think at the beginning, especially, it was maybe lacking some stakes. Even though we did just lose Sharon because of Agatha's kind of callousness, and even though the other witches do call out her callousness, there's not a whole lot invested at this point. They tell us how dangerous the road is. We've seen a death, but it's not resonating enough, and I think a lot of that is just kind of the writing and maybe a little bit of the directing, because it has such a fun tone. Sometimes those more serious aspects kind of get lost in all the costumes and the musical numbers. So I don't again, while not fully agreeing with you, I do understand where you're coming from. I love the entrance of Rio. Like that was a great horror movie entrance. I mean, and you know, we get another great kind of horror movie aspect, you know, later in the episode. The whole her being death thing, like the name Rio Vidal. Rio is, you know, river, and Vidal is derivative of vitalis, which is life. So the fact that she's actually all this kind of circle of life is her, I think that's really, really interesting. And a lot of the dialogue that she does have later really leans into Michael's theory about the fact that she is Death. I'm curious if is she supposed to be like Lady Death, the one that Thanos fell in love with?
Oh, I don't know.
Or is this another iteration of that character? But again, the chemistry of the witches is great, especially when they do get into that into the woods blame game. In that, you know, you were the protection witch, why didn't you protect her? And how Lilia, who's not involved in the argument, comes out of left field. It's like, you're the potions witch. She drank 2 glasses. Why didn't you do this? Like that is the most fun part. But adding the wild card of Aubrey Plaza, who again is just sort of a tremendous performer, but also just a chaotic presence in an ensemble. Super, super fun. So while I do wish the stakes were a little more palpable, I did enjoy the opening.
Yeah, I like the way they open it, because I mean, Agatha she's not all of a sudden becoming a hero, right? You've got to keep her in this place of like, you know, oh wow, I didn't know you had it in you. That's a great point, Michael. Who is she talking to? Why is she saying this? And what's the wink to the teen all about? Like, what are the connections here? Because Rio does come out of Sharon's grave. So is there a connection between Sharon and Rio? Is there something there? I saw people speculating that Sharon was Rio in disguise, and then Rio now comes out this time. So fascinating to see where the connections are. I don't know. I'm just saying, I've seen some speculation of that, so I've got that course through my head. But the interactions here are, you know, what you're seeing is these women are coming together. Remember, they've been brought together from different places. They know each other, they know of each other, but they're not friends with each other. So naturally, each of them are separately alphas in their own way, in their own worlds. So bringing them together, they're not all going to get along. So the moment something happens, it's easy to be like, well, don't blame me, because they've all got their issues that they're navigating. So they're not in that place to be like, well, let's figure out what happened here. So you keep them bickering. So you wait till the moment they come together. And I think later in the campfire, we see the beginning of this coven actually coming together, which I think is really cool to see. But we got to keep them bickering for now. So the intro to me, I like. And then Rio coming in is great. As I said, Aubrey Plaza brings, and Shannon just reiterated, she brings that electric energy. I love that she's bringing Latino energy without even making it obvious, right? She leaves every time talking to Agatha with a Latino goodbye, a Spanish goodbye. Rio Vidal is her name. She is Latina Aubrey Plaza. So bringing that energy in here, I think, is a nice little bit of electricity throughout, because we are a passionate people and we do get into some shit. We do get into some shit. So I love that she's kind of part of this whole thing. And so I love seeing that aspect of it all. And the fact that, look, this show is unabashedly a gay show. Those women are talking about being attracted to her and terrified of her at the same time. And sometimes those are the best one-night stands to have. And so you see they're having this attraction coursing throughout. And I love that it's just fluid, and it's just not, it's matter of fact. It's not being highlighted. It just is. And I appreciate that about their approach to this show for sure. All right, let's move on here. Just as we're wondering how to gauge what Rio is through the Coven of Witches, a house shows up. Another house shows up here. And as Alice recognizes the house, she tries to run, but then the house shows up again. So clearly you got to face your fears here. There's a waxing moon phase on the door. We hear that it is a fire trial. They walk inside. They're outfitted in 70s clothes. They start looking for a clue. We see tortured witches' art on the wall, which is pretty unsettling. Alice sees a photo of her mom, reveals that her mom tried to open the road with her concerts and her fans were the coven for her. Then Lilia has another one of these sporadic visions and says, Alice, don't. And also says something about being a floozy or something.
Am I wispy or am I kooky?
That's it, wispy or kooky, which I think is
a little
really
bit of both.
A little bit of both. Then Rio and Agatha have a flirting match there in the control room, and Agatha tricks Rio into revealing what she wants to do with the Coven of Witches over an intercom, and this causes some anger from the Coven there to run up, and then the teen finds this record that says "Play Me," and he does what the record says, "Play Me," thinking it's a clue, plays it backwards, and it causes their ears to bleed in essence, and they all start to get these burns on their shoulders. Alice draws circles around them to save them, and then they realize they've got to sing her mom, Lorna's version of the Witches Road theme, the ballad there, and they get into this 70s rock and roll version of this with, really, in my opinion, Patti Lupone should have led, but whatever. Kathryn Hahn is the lead, so she gets the lead. But eventually Alice takes over because Agatha tells her, you got to play like a witch. You got to be invested in this. Go. And Alice takes over and just absolutely nails it here. She is fantastic. And then the demon appears, flying down amongst, goes upon Alice's shoulders, and Alice goes into overdrive and sets the demon on fire, and it explodes, and the piano opens, and there is the exit. So Shannon, you're our action guy. A lot of action in this section of the show. What did you think of this whole turning into 70s, the door itself, and then what it leads to with the record and the rock and roll band playing here?
Well, this hit a couple of notes for me personally, because again, growing up in a very Southern Baptist household, the idea of taking a 70s song on a record and playing it backwards, that leans right into some sermons I had to sit through. So one, I mean, again, the chemistry of the cats being the strongest part of the show, putting them in different costumes and different settings, that's just fun. I mean, it's a lot of fun. What I feel like it might lack in some mistakes from time to time, the aesthetics of all of these powerhouse performers getting to rock these different costumes. It's just a lot of fun. I think the stakes in the Big Little Lies episode, I thought those stakes were higher, but visually the 70s rock vibe is just, it's a lot of fun. Watching again Aubrey Plaza and Kathryn Hahn together, like them giving us these little breadcrumbs of who Aubrey Plaza is and how she's basically saying, I'm getting a little impatient here. And you start to, you know, the onion, the mystery onion, the layers are starting to peel away, and trying to find out, okay, what actually did happen between these two? Because there's one, if Aubrey Plaza is in fact deaf, she is doing her job. Like, I need to get some bodies. But also she has this past relationship with Agatha that ended with some hostility. So again, it's just fun to watch. Kathryn Hahn's very clear, hitting the microphone, being like, that's not the type of witch I am anymore. Like, again, that's just, I don't think anyone in the Coven buys it. They know exactly what she's doing, but at the same time, she's like, if Rio is here to kill us, that's something we actually need to know, even though even though the information was given in not the most honest way. Yeah. The Play Me record going backwards, like that, again, it's just a lot of fun. And I do agree that of that cast, yes, Patti Lupone probably has the best set of pipes. Thank you. That being said, it has to be Agatha has to sing lead. I mean, and watching Ali confront the demon, confront this sort of physical representation of this curse. I don't disagree with you, John. I don't think the episode needed a lot more time, but would it have been nice to find out where did this curse originate? What were the specifics of the curse? That would have been nice information to have. Ultimately, did we need it? Maybe not. I think maybe it would have provided a little more catharsis at the end when Alice does ultimately defeat it. But I think the point of the episode was not necessarily Alice's trial, but more just to put the teen in mortal danger, so we see the journey of Agatha, because she is our lead. The whole thing with him getting that glass, like, that was a nice subtle move. I thought it was just a lot of fun. Yeah. Michael, your thoughts here? I mean, this is probably, maybe, may I venture to say, your favorite part of the episode, this whole thing inside the house. So what are your thoughts on what happened here? The 70s theme, the songs, the Agatha and Rio going at it, and by the end, the teen getting a piece of glass in his gut, but them getting the escape route through the piano. Your thoughts?
I mean, I Probably the reveals around the teen and Rio are my favorite part total. Okay. But yes, I loved everything in here. And I think it's just because of the care that they're taking. Look, the whole place, the costumes obviously looked amazing. Like as we've all said, like seeing them in these outfits, absolutely a blast. Like the reveal of that is awesome. But at the same time, the entire room, I mean, everything about the art direction of the room, not just from the 70s aspect, but like, you know, Lilia goes and looks at those paintings that are all depictions of all of the ways that women were tortured when they were accused of being witches throughout history, and her crying and having that reaction to that because she's probably the oldest of all of them. And she's looking at that and is like, she knows people who had that happen to her. Yeah. She was there when it happened. And then Jen seeing all those really creepy masks that were like Japanese Oni demons. Yeah. And like that one with the eyes that sort of disappeared. Like they had those little creepy bits to it that all really, really worked well. So you had all of this really great set dressing. You put them in this amazing environment. And I do have a note on the directing as far as the stakes that I think they didn't fully land that would have helped a lot of what you guys are talking about. But in general, I loved that as soon as you entered the room, the directing style completely changed. Like they were fully going for a lot of those classic 70s Brian De Palma shots, like the weird zooms, the overhead shots, the split screens. So even in the way that they shot, cut, edited the whole thing, everything made it feel a little bit more 1970s. And while all that's happening, you've got this Agatha Rio thing that's sort of unraveling in front of us, and the things that Rio's saying. Like when she says to Agatha's clearly not happy that she's there for the reasons we said. Like she's like, you're early. You're not supposed to be here yet. And she's like, magic works that way. Like I was the closest green witch around and it called me. And then when she says, and it pulled me down, actually pulled me up, I'm like, oh, from hell, your death. Like this is very clear. And as far as Agatha doing the reveal with the microphone, I thought it was really brilliant because sure, the entire coven hears Rio say that Agatha is going to suck their power and kill them. Right. But they kind of already knew that anyway. Yeah. Agatha is known for that. So Agatha didn't really give up any information. She just let them know what they already suspect about her and then got the added information that Rio gets the bodies. Again, Agatha gets the power and Death gets to reap the benefits of the dead bodies. But yes, I do love Kathryn Hahn's delivery. What? No, that's my coven. I would never. Not that kind of witch. Like, just perfect Kathryn Hahn delivery. One interesting little detail, you know, last week with the wine bottle being the Red Queen, when you translated it, I thought maybe because Mrs. Hart, Queen of Hearts, but the second track on that record, after the Witch's Road, is Red-Haired Woman. So I'm back to like, okay, well, Wanda's got fingerprints all over all of this. Oh yeah. So I thought that was really, really interesting. Unlike Shannon, I laugh anytime anyone plays a record backwards thinking it's going to be satanic because that was the dumbest thing that parents thought in the 70s and 80s. Right up there with Dungeons and Dragons is going to kill your children. So I think that was all hilarious, but I thought a really nice, again, taking something that was very specifically a concern from the late 70s, early 80s and using that in this thing. And then, look, I fucking love that. Which they can give me a different cover. They can give me a different cover of the Witch's Ballad in every single decade for the rest of this show. I will put them all on a playlist and I will go to the gym and work out and just be singing down the Witch's Road the whole time. I thought it was great. As with anything where you're trying to take a specific song that you wrote for one purpose and put it into different decades, is it going to be the banger that like fucking Stairway to Heaven is? No. But did they get those right notes? Did they get that right feel? Did they get those right additions and riffs? I think so. Also, yeah, John is totally right. You put Patti Lupone in any ensemble on the planet and she's gonna be the best singer in the group. I mean, like with very few exceptions, Patti Lupone is always gonna be the best, but it's gotta be Agatha. I also, with Alice and the whole generational curse, I did love when you go back and rewatch it, like Alice has this moment where she goes, does anybody else feel lighter? Yes. And it's because the demon literally, as soon as the curse went to everybody else, flew off of her shoulders and was going around one by one and attacking everyone. I did think it was interesting that the demon did not burn the teen, just
Right.
threw him out of the room, was like, you're not part of the coven. Fuck you. You're out of here. But then this is the only directing thing, and I think it really would have helped as far as the stakes go. Like with last week's challenge, there's a specific clock and you know what's going to happen. If we don't get this potion mixed and drink the potion, we will die. When you say there is this demon and it's flying around and burning, but some people are in circles and some people are not, but the song is going to destroy it, ultimately that is what happens. Like the thing lands on Alice, she sings her heart out, the thing bursts in flames. When you're doing a whole, the song is the weapon, you sort of want to have those moments where the demon is flying at Alice.
Yeah.
And Alice like then hits those keys and like starts wailing, and it actually physically blows the demon back. Like if you had those moments where the music itself was working and you saw the demon battling against the music, it's a hard thing to do because music is audio.
Yeah.
So you have to really work at like this whole push and pull, and the demon just kind of flew around and did its thing.
Yeah.
So again, that to me is I think that would have helped the stakes that you guys are talking about. But I don't, in the big scheme of things, I think that's small potatoes compared to all the stuff that they did right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was an absolute blast.
Yeah, I think that's my main complaint is I wanted a longer battle. I wanted the demon to fight harder because this had been on her shoulder for so long. That demon is invested on staying alive. That curse is invested on being in the situation that it's in. And the fact that finally it's going to get a chance to take her and everyone else, because what we find out later is that the reason Lorna made that such a banger ballad was so that someone would be playing it all the time. So the curse.
I love that idea.
Love that.
Yeah.
Like
yeah, we'll
just
get
as a
to that.
concept, that was, I like, as soon as they said that, I was like, that's fucking cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the selling the catalog.
Right, exactly. So the idea of the demon wanting to fight harder, I would have loved to have seen that. And your direction points make a lot of sense, Michael. I do take your points there. For me, the thing I hit on here is the message they're trying to send with Alice, right? Alice has been afraid to confront this. Remember, before they walk in the house, she tries to run away from it. And this is all of us in our life. All of us have that one big thing we're afraid to confront. And eventually we hit that point where we have to confront it at some point and either get over it or just accept it that it's our life and live a life that doesn't confront that demon. And you've got to confront it if you want to get over it. And sometimes it helps to have people around you who help you confront that demon. And what we see here with the Coven of Witches, they all pick up an instrument. They all want to help, not just for their own benefits to get away from this curse, but also because they know Alice is in danger here and they want to bring this about and make it happen. And each one grabs Patti grabbing her little things cracked the shit up out of me. But like all of that is really powerful in the message that it's sending, is that if you're willing to confront this demon and you've got people who believe in you, support your friends or family, they can help you confront that demon. And Alice confronts it so powerfully. And I think it's genius that it wasn't Agatha yelling at the demon. Agatha cedes control or the lead of the song, hands it over to Alice. She essentially does a solo. As we know, those 70s ballads have those long solos or instrument breaks there in those songs. It works so well. So when Alice it has to be Alice exploding the demon. It works so well in the symbolism of that. She finally confronted it and destroyed it for herself and saved the Coven of Witches from this curse. Because remember, Agatha says, did you give us this curse? Did you curse us with this generational curse? So she destroys it for them. And then I'll go back to Lilia. The Lilia moments of her seeing the torture. Michael, I think Michael or Shannon, whoever said it, like she's the oldest. She knows this stuff. And remember, she's the one that keeps bringing up the idea of stereotyping witches, of the way we've been characterized. This is a big deal for her. And the reason is because she has lived through centuries of seeing witches / women, because that's really what the show is saying, being tortured and being hurt and being killed because other people's ideas that they put on these women / witches are what leads them to that. So there's a powerful undercurrent message here about how we viewed women centuries wise in our world and what we've hung on them and how we've tortured and killed them in essence through the purview of the witches. So I thought that was a really well done thing. Yeah, Michael, you want to say?
Yeah, I also think like to what you were saying about Alice and the breaking of the curse, there's also something really lovely about you know, her mom was this huge rock star, who was famous for this song, made this song famous, and made her fans her coven. And Alice, you can tell, always felt a little bit like this was more important to my mom than me. Like, like there was this idea that she did all this. She even says to Lilia, like 2 years after her big tour, she had to sell her entire catalog so that we could keep our house. Like, there's this idea that she gave everything to this. And so then and then thought for the rest of her life she was just this loser and had this curse on her that never got lifted. And so then to find out that her mom did do all that, like put everything into this tour, everything into this song, so that it almost ruined her. But the reason she did it was to make the song so powerful, and to make the protection spell so powerful that it would keep her safe through all these years, and that she should have died. The same way that her grandmother died, the same way that her mother died. She should have died and didn't, because her mom put everything into that, and then ultimately sent her daughter on the witch's road, knowing that that would be the thing that would finally break the curse. And the last line, I forget, I wrote it down and then I can't find it, but the last line of this version is, I'll see you at the end, no matter the bends, I'll see you at the end, or something. So I'm really hoping that by the end of this episode, Alice does see her mom at the end of the road. Like that she does get that moment of catharsis with her mom, because I think, just to John's point, yes, always when you like a character and you like the story, you want to see more. So would I have loved to see the generational trauma and how it affected the grandmother, or where the curse came from? Yes, absolutely could have been interesting. But even with the information that they gave us, I think they've crafted this really beautiful story about, to John's point, the trauma, but in the very witchy sense of it, what this curse did, how her mom sacrificed everything for her daughter, and her daughter didn't understand that until now. I thought was really beautiful.
Well, and there was one other thing, and this is just along with the curse, and this is just kind of to support Vogel's theory. The curse attacks Lilia, it attacks Agatha, it attacks Jen. It doesn't attack Rio.
Oh, no.
Right, because of course not. Because she's like,
because they see each other at the time clock.
Right.
Also, Rio's the one that gives the information. Like, Rio is great. Alice doesn't know why her mom did what she did. Like, when they were like, why did your mom want to go down the road? What did she want? And it's Rio who just gives Agatha a look. She goes, to protect. It's a double whammy, because she looks at Agatha and says, to protect her daughter. And she's the one that gives that information, which is A, what Alice didn't fully realize, but B, I think she's looking at Agatha, because at this point she's pretty clear that Agatha at least suspects that that teen is her son. I
also think it's a slight therapy moment, right? The stigma sometimes with therapy is, oh, you go there so you can blame your parents. You're actually going there so you can come to terms with how your parents, if your parents are remotely decent, tried to do the best they could. And you've got to come to terms with that. And Alice has been blaming her mom and also feeling guilty herself for not being able to save her mom, and thinks everything I touched went to shit, and we'll hear that in a second. But it's all been hanging over her. And the thing is, if you find help in the right places, you can come to terms with these things and realize your parents were actually trying to do their best. And it's a hard thing to accept when you've, kind of built in your mind all the mistakes they made. But as you get older, you do have a different perspective as you get older, and you realize how hard life actually is, how tough it is to raise a child, how much money it takes, and the kind of effort you have to do. So her making that ballad, which she's going to realize here in a second, I think is a powerful message as well of how, parents sometimes get a bad rap when in fact they're trying to do their best. So I'm just throwing that out there. All right. All right, let's move on to the last section here. As they escape, they realize the teen has been injured. Yes, because he filed down on the ground very dramatically. As Agatha looks on concerningly, Jen heals him with a potion, and Lilia compliments her. This is important. Lilia compliments her. This is becoming, they're starting to like each other and accept each other. But Lilia also sees the Three of Swords. We'll see what that means later. The coven then is around a campfire trading stories about their lives. Jen reveals she's an 11th generation root worker and midwife, and how she lost her power to a doctor at some convention, and how she still doesn't know how the man bound her here with no magic. Alice reveals that when her mom died, she stopped believing everything she taught her and wanted to stay angry. But now that the road is real, she's just sad. And Lilia, again, as the older matriarch says, sad is better than angry. That's a great message, everybody. And rants again about the misconceptions surrounding witches. Meanwhile, the teen wakes up with Agatha watching over him, asks if she put the sigil on him. She denies it, and then kind of backtracks and says, Well, there was no way I could actually know if I put it on you for sure. Just know that the sigil works on the witch who cast them as well. And sigils are destroyed, not lifted when they're no longer needed. Oh boy. Teen dares to ask what really happened to her son. Agatha immediately closes up and walks away to the coven. They have this Jaws scene where they're sharing scars and where they got their scars. We hear about knitting needles to the elbow, fighting the Daughters of Liberty. Look up the Daughters of Liberty. And Agatha looks uncomfortable laughing. Like the fact that these women are accepting her or trading stories and laughing, like Agatha's like almost kind of like, ha ha ha, putting it on, which I think is a nice little character thing. Rio says she has a scar, and here goes the Richard Dreyfuss moment, and explains that she loves someone and hurt them by doing something that she didn't want to do, even though it was her job. She is my scar, which is clearly a reference to Agatha, who takes that as a cue, gets up, walks away, and Rio follows her, but not before Lilia reminds her she hasn't forgotten what she said in the control room, which Rio hisses at her for. Rio finds Agatha. They share a long, intimate hug. Agatha brushes her hair back, and they're about to kiss when Rio stops her and says, "That boy isn't yours." Agatha pulls away, giving her an indecipherable smile before walking away once more. Michael, a lot here. The campfire, the exchanges, and then Rio and Agatha there at the end. Your thoughts?
Well, first of all, yeah, something wants the teen dead.
Mm-hmm.
Like just the teen, like going on this road, like there is a force of nature that is like, nah, I don't want this kid around. But yeah, Agatha's emotion around the teen is sort of what allows her in this series to be as callous as Agatha should be, but have us still care about her. Like, this is her Achilles heel.
Yeah.
And watching it is really, really lovely. I mean, just Kathryn Hahn playing all those layers. Again, Jen being able to do what she does kind of supports the Wizard of Ozness of it all. Like, she's a bound witch. She can't do everything, but that's powerful. She is still a powerful witch, despite the fact that she was bound in some way by someone who didn't have magic. And Lilia pointing that out, I think, is really, really important. I think also really important is the way, and Agatha does this throughout with Rio. I mean, she does it almost immediately when Rio first appears. There's a moment between the two of them where she just says no. And it happens again here with the teen. Like, she looks dead at Rio, who is sort of hovering over the teen, and she's like, don't. Or no. It's one or the other.
She's waiting for her body. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and just the fact that she is like, don't do this. Do not do this. And that Rio sort of backs off. Like, all of it was fascinating. And then, the teen waking up, the moment between the two of them was, again, really lovely. Good information about sigils. So we know from last week that some witch put a sigil on him to sort of protect him from witch kind. And that we know now that sigils disappear when they are destroyed when they're no longer needed. And that even the witch who placed the sigil wouldn't remember doing it because it would work on the witch as well.
Yeah.
Sort of like what Doctor Strange did to Peter Parker at the end of No Way Home.
Oh, good point.
And all really lovely, but there's that moment where Agatha says to the teen, you don't need to know who someone is to know who they are. And it's just this lovely, beautiful moment where Agatha is basically saying, you could argue that she's saying, I think you're my son. But even in a broader sense, she's saying, it's that rare moment where she's like, you're a good person. You're someone worth caring about.
Yeah.
And then he instantly is like, what happened to your son? And she's like, and fuck off. And she gets out of there. And I love when everyone's like, how's the teen doing? And she's like, mouthy. So they're like, okay, that's good. But yeah, love the battle scar scene. It's to your point, I didn't think about it and I should have. That Jaws moment, one of my all-time favorite Spielberg moments, it is the very traditional dude way.
Yes.
To be like, this is how we bond. Oh, how'd you get that? Oh, yeah, well, I was in the war. How'd you do that? Oh, in a bar. Fought this guy. It was fucking crazy. So watching these really, really powerful women do the same thing, I thought was really, really fun. But then fucking curveball with fucking Rio. I mean, to be like, I have a scar, and Agatha immediately is like, you don't have a scar. Again, because you're deaf. Like, you don't have scars. And she's like, yeah, I do have a scar. I really love this person. I had to do something I didn't want to do, and they hated me for it, and she is my scar. I was like, holy shit, what a line. Like, it was fucking great. And then Agatha storming off, Rio following her, having this super intense, tender moment that was like, oh yeah, these two, this went from did they fuck to they fucked. Like, it was like undeniable. And then for her to just look at her and be like, he's not yours. I mean, and it kind of shows to me, I mean, there's probably some people that are like, what a fucking lame ending. To me, it shows how invested we are, how they've done. We all pretty much, I think, are clear on the teen is probably Billy, with a slight chance that maybe he's Nick, or maybe he's some combination of Nick and Billy. We don't know. But the fact that they took a character that is most likely a young Avenger and have made it just mysterious enough that you can end the episode with he's not yours. And then to see Agatha put on that super fake smile and just walk away, and that's the ending of the episode. I think they've really done a good job of like pulling us into this mystery. So kudos to them.
Shannon, your thoughts on this, on these final scenes here, the teen being saved, the campfire exchanging of stories and scars, and then what happens with Agatha and Rio at the end there?
I mean, the big one for me is the journey of Lilia, in that she goes from the beginning of the episode from specifically blaming Jen, which she's probably right. but also justifiably saying good job, like you know, you did good, kid. So I thought that the bonding of the coven continues to be, again, the chemistry of the cast continues to be the strongest part of the show. Looking at, again, the abilities of Kathryn Hahn, that she's able to play this really tough exterior, I don't want to care about anybody, and you see that gooey center starting to crack. It's starting to permeate the hard candy shell. It's really, really lovely work. And Billy the teen at the same time, recognizing that as well. Like when he said, like, he understands, oh, we're starting to connect, and overplaying his hand like a child would. Saying like, oh, be careful, you know, you might say something nice to me, like, don't count on it. And then when he asks about her son, like, again, really, really great work. The whole bonding over the scars scene, that was great. I love the Daughters of Liberty line. Like, you ever hear the Daughters of Liberty? Nope, that's exactly. But that line that Aubrey Plaza has at the end when she say that boy isn't yours, again, that double meaning of, one, she's saying that's not your son. Even if it was, he's still not yours. I have a job to do, and I'm going to do that job. So I think, again, setting the stage for what we're going to get more and more. This is one of the reasons I think the show does succeed.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see if they bring in the Daughters of Liberty, because I mean there's a legacy of them in the Marvel comics that involves Peggy Carter. So I mean, it's and interesting.
And Agatha trained the Daughters of Liberty in the comics.
Exactly. So there's,
I don't think they're going to, but there is a double meaning. There is either she wiped out the Daughters of Liberty in the MCU, which is fine, or they're a secret society that Agatha trained. So she could be like, yeah, you haven't heard of them because I took them out. You're like, no, you didn't. They're still around. It's fine. You lied. It's another lie. It's fine. They could. If that's a good, I call that a good. It's a Marvel drop that it gets thrown in there. And it could be a drop that is never referenced again, and it would be totally fine. But if they picked that up down the road and Daughters of Liberty ever became a thing, people will look back at this and go, oh, they planned it all the whole time. It's just good. It's a good little bit of world building right there.
I agree. I liked the scene where they're sharing stories. I mean, those are great moments when they're done well with good actors in films or TV shows where they exchange those things. And certainly we've now had both Lilia and certainly Jen's got to. I mean, we thought we had the trial with Jen and the potions, but clearly there's more to do with Jen, with this unbounding thing that she's got to confront at some point. And Lilia, clearly we're getting teased what's going to happen at some point here, either the next episode or the episode after. She's going to have to confront from her past all the way back there what happened and why she's the way. And then we'll find out what all these blurts are of information, these random moments where she disappears, blurts stuff out, and then doesn't know what happened, and people are like taken aback, as we saw in the house with Alice. So we're going to get more of that. So I like that there. But she's a protector. She's a matriarch. When she's the one that grabs Rio, for all their fear or not sure what Rio is, she grabs Rio and says, like, don't think I forgot what you said in the control room. And Rio can hiss all she wants. This is an old witch who's been around, so she's probably dealt with death in different forms in the past. But when we get to that exchange between Rio and Agatha, to me, I think the scar that she's talking about is, I wonder if they were in the relationship. Agatha wanted this Darkhold, realized she had to sacrifice her son, thought maybe she could work it so that she didn't have to sacrifice her son because she was sleeping with Death. But Death did what she had to do, which is what she says in that line. Yeah. I did what I had to do, even because it was her job. And so maybe that's the reason that they have this divide and anger towards each other and what have you, is that she had to take Nicholas's life. And so this is going, I wonder if that's a tease for what's coming, or I could be way off. I don't know. Just an idea.
No, I don't think you are, actually. I mean, it's like, look, I don't think that they're throwing the Nick Scratch thing in here just to be like, let's fool you, it's really Billy. Like, this is a trauma for Agatha. She lost her son. I don't know that there's a way that they could make the teen both a little bit of Billy and a little bit of Nick without being very confusing and making everybody kind of be like, huh? But to your point, if Agatha got the Darkhold, thought she could sort of spare Nick, and Rio ended up taking Nick because she had to, and that was the falling out that they had, and Rio's like, it was my job. And if we get to the end of this, and let's just say hypothetically that the teen was supposed to die, whether it was 3 years ago when WandaVision happened or this car crash that Agatha references in the very first episode, and then Billy's essence, for reasons, was put into him. So he's sort of someone that Rio is supposed to take because he did technically die, but this whole weird Billy thing has him sort of walking around. So again, you're going to run into this situation where Agatha has someone that she cares about, that Rio's like, he's actually mine, I need to take him. But this time Agatha does something noble or heroic to protect him. Like, that could be really, really interesting.
Right. Yeah, it could be. And it could be that he is the body of Nicholas, but it is Billy inside of Nicholas. That's a very real possibility that they could explore, I suppose, down the road. All right. Well, there you go. That's our spoiler review here. Final words on this particular episode. Shannon, any final words before we wrap up?
I mean, like WandaVision, the fun of this show is the evolving mystery every week. I mean, in the age of streaming, when a lot of shows drop all their episodes at once, which can be a lot of fun, and there are times definitely watching Agatha All Along and be like, man, it'd be so easy just to blow through all of them. I mean, the 2-month mystery that we're getting is a lot of fun.
Yeah. Michael, any final thoughts here on this episode?
Final thoughts are, look, I know that Marvel has its hits and its misses, but I think that they are going down the road. Not only have they created a bunch of characters based on comic book figures that most of us don't really care about, that I would be happy to see continue in the MCU. Like, I would happy to see any of these witches show up anywhere in the MCU moving forward, and I'd be happy. But also with Billy, assuming he's Billy, having a character that's as powerful as the Scarlet Witch, that traveled the Witch's Road with Agatha Harkness, that becomes this like super powerful magical figure in the MCU that could potentially be the next Sorcerer Supreme. If they do this right, they've got another 10 years out of me. I'm good.
Oh, wow.
So keep going. So keep going.
Respect. Yeah. What my issues, of course, as I said, I feel the episode fell a little flat, but it didn't mean that it was unwatchable. It didn't mean that I still didn't enjoy the interactions between the characters. And it didn't mean that by the end, when they have that back and forth, that I'm really excited to see what the next episode is going to give us in the Rio and Agatha relationship, and with what's going to happen with these witches, especially because we're getting to my grand dame Patti Lupone story, which I will enjoy like crazy.
So wait, we're at episode 4. There's 9 episodes, right?
Yeah, 9.
So relatively sure next week is the weird Patti Lupone Wizard of Oz thing that we've seen in the trailers.
Yeah.
There's also the sort of 1980s slumber party thing that we saw in the trailers.
Yeah.
So whether that is Agatha's, we're assuming that last week's in the house was Jen, even though she still has more to deal with. And this week was obviously Alice. Then we're going to get Lilia. So that's episodes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And so we have 6 and 7, and then 8 and 9 will sort of be our double whammy finale.
Right.
So is the 80s slumber party Agatha's? Is it
good question?
Teen? Or is it, I mean, I'm assuming Rio doesn't get a challenge on the road because she is above the road or below the road. But so it's going to be interesting to see. I know what we're getting in the next 2 weeks, but then we get into this, like, it's actually really great because usually when we have these shows, particularly Disney shows, particularly Star Wars shows, we get a couple episodes in and you're like, I mean, they're going to try and slam all this in the next few episodes and it's going to be super unsatisfying. Whereas here I'm like, okay, I know we get this, but then we have 4 episodes that are sort of wide open and I don't quite know where it's going. And this is exciting.
I'm going to throw something out there. Well, maybe not. Maybe it doesn't work. I was going to say
do it.
Deborah Jo Rupp comes back. That's the 80s thing. She's a teenager in the 80s, but Deborah's 73. She wouldn't have been a teenager in the 80s. So I don't know. We'll see. But it could be Agatha. It feels like it would be Agatha or the teen. I think it's either one of those two. That's the slumber party thing.
I also think, look, Mrs. Hart, Jack Schaefer came out and said Mrs. Hart is dead. But
she did.
Deborah Jo Rupp also said, I'm very satisfied with Sharon's arc, and you got to see it till the end. I do think there will be a moment, like, as we said, Jen sort of did do her potion in last week's episode. Alice faced the demon in this episode. But I do think at somewhere near the end of the road, everyone has, like, that final moment. Like, I do think Alice is going to face her mom. I do think Jen is going to face the one who bound her. And I wonder if Sharon will show up there as the you killed me, you brought me on this road, like a final challenge, whether it be for Agatha or somebody. Like, I do think we haven't seen the last of Mrs. Hart, even though I do think Mrs. Hart is most sincerely dead.
Okay, there we go. Only mostly then. All right, well, there you go. That's our words and our spoiler review thoughts on this episode 4 of Agatha All Along. Thank you all so much for watching or listening to us. Shannon, what do we have to tell them?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media, on Twitter, it's at geek_buddies, on Instagram at _geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's at Shannon_McClung, on Instagram at Shannon the Geek Buddy. The finale for Dream Sequence dropped this past Monday. If you'd like to follow Mr. Vogel, it is at MKToon. If you'd like to follow Mr. Rocha, it is at The Rocha Says.
Mikey?
We would also love it if you smash that like button below. Subscribe to Johnny's Outlaw Nation page. Check out all the amazing content he has got going on there. Leave your comments down below on the comments page and let us know what you thought of this episode. If you're listening to us on a podcast, leave us some stars and comments so we go up in the rankings. And as always, the best thing you can do is retweet this video, post it on your social, send it to your friends, and tell them to hang out with your buddies, the Geek Buddies.
Yeah, guys, we are 23 subscribers away from 35,000 subscribers to the channel.
23.
Come on, people. Would love it.
Somebody text 23 of your friends right now. You know you got them. 23 friends.
I don't know. Some of you maybe like 35. There's chicken feed. I work hard to get this to 35, so I'm going to take some pride in it once we do. So please help us get there. But thank you so much for watching or listening to us. We love you all madly. Remember, our main show is out. Will be out for you all to enjoy as well. And we did our Penguin review earlier this week. If you haven't caught up on that, please make sure you watch that as well. What's that? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. All right. Thanks so much. Take care of yourselves. Be well. We'll talk to you next time with another brand new spoiler review of Agatha All Along on a Geek Bites brought to you by the
Geek Buddies. Hey!